wake up.
This is a brand new episode of Wake Up Right.
Wake up.
With your workout buddies, April and sometimes Jenna. Your HIIT podcast. Your much needed hit of encouragement, empowerment, and motivation to live and grow each day a little brighter.
Hey everybody. I can't. Hey everybody, welcome back to Wake Up Bright.
Your HIIT podcast. I'm Jenna.
And I'm April, and today is episode 1. So last week we did episode 0, which went live today. Very exciting.
Yay. That is so exciting.
Today's episode is a little different because we are doing an interview. So I thought I would take just a second to share. Some of our episodes are going to be interviews, most of them probably, and then some of our episodes will just be me and Jenna talking about a book or topics, which we talked about in episode 0. But today's is an interview, and we're very excited about it. But before we dive into interview things, I want to share a little bit about Built Bar. Built Bar is sponsoring today's video. We are so grateful for Built Bar. I love Built Bars. They are such a guilt-free, delicious treat. They have a low-calorie nutrition profile, high protein, and high fiber. This German chocolate Built Bar, my husband's absolute favorite and top 3 for me. It has 17 grams of protein, 7 of which come from fiber. It keeps me satiated, and that is so important when I'm feeling like I need a little type of treat, which is exactly what Built Bars are to me. Built Bars have so many flavors. Sometimes they have cookie dough, birthday cake. They have special flavors like that all of the time, and those typically are my favorite. However, they're staple flavors. I love coconut almond. Pretty much you put coconut and Built Bar together and I am going to be a fan. I love it. If you would like to try or order some Built Bars, click the link in the description below or use code AprilLauren10 to save 10% off. Let's start. Let's dive in. The podcast I feel like is doing really good today.
Yay.
Did you watch Oh, I like it. It's so cute. It's even cuter. Maybe that's why you should do the whole podcast.
I think it looks like trash. And I was
no, it's so cute. It's cute.
My hair's everywhere.
I like it. Your hair's so long. Well, our podcast is doing good today. I can't believe we have a podcast. Like full blown. I'm very excited. Go ahead.
I feel like you were like, yeah, we're not going to be on the podcast platforms anytime soon, and here we are.
I know. Well, I just, in my head, it's like with all things in life, I'm like, I make it sound and seem so hard. And if it's not hard, then I have some like idyllic version of it in my head, and it's hard to make it like reality. That this is a podcast nobody can see, like the people who are listening. So she has like these little, they're like little squares. And then it's really cute. It's really cute.
Gross. I feel like it is missing the little butterfly clips.
Yeah, the butterfly clips. We were talking about that. We were talking about like 90s hairstyles earlier. And we've decided that, or it's that early 2000s. I think that's like early 2000s. And it needs the butterfly clips in her hair.
And then I realized that
too.
I've had my hair with those butterfly clips when I was 6 in a daycare picture.
I feel like this is my jam. Wearing my hair with those little clips. I feel like I can still rock that.
Right? It looks good.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I think it's brought back already, so
it's true. Everything from it's trippy going shopping. I'm like, oh, like my 8-year-old self would love this top.
Yeah.
So we're so excited because today our podcast officially launched. And yeah, thanks everyone for watching, for your sweet comments on YouTube. And we are live on most of the directories at this point. So we are on Apple Podcast, we are on Spotify. There are like 1,000 others that we're already live on. I haven't done Google or Amazon yet, but maybe by the time you watch this, they'll be live too. So we're everywhere. And on YouTube. And every single episode will have a corresponding blog post with more about any guest we have or topics that we have spoken about. So Yay. um, so what have you been up to today?
I went for a walk it was more of a running errands type of walk because it's not too far to walk to the PX. So that's where I went. I had to drop something off to the UPS and get a prescription filled. So
Exciting stuff. I too went to the UPS store today. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So I went to the UPS store and I called my mom on the way there and she got to telling me about this show that she watched called Extreme Sisters. Have you ever watched Extreme Sisters? I had never heard of it. I will probably never watch it. But she told me about these twins and she's like, they're so adorable and their story's so neat. This is not exactly how my mom talks, but for the purposes of this story, this is how my mom talks. She's like, you should look them up. They're two twins and they're so cute and they lived their whole lives together. They did everything together. And they went to a convention in Twinville and they met another set of identical twins and they fell in love and they got married. So twin girls met twin dudes and they got married, each to a separate twin, of course. But then they decided to live together and share their whole lives together. So all four of them live together. What are your thoughts?
Ooh.
I don't want to live with anyone. My marriage, I don't want to live with any other people with.
That doesn't really sound normal. I feel like I've read a news article about them. I know I read a news article about identical twins who married another set of identical twins and they were having babies at the same time because they wanted to have babies.
Yeah, no, that's them. It's the same people. So, I mean, and this is no judgment really. Like if you love your sibling and you love your spouse and you want them both in your life all of the time, I need copious amounts of alone time. Like completely alone. And I don't have a twin, so I don't know what that's like. But I think it's just interesting. Now, I feel like they're getting a lot of negative flack from what my mom was saying because they're raising their kids as brothers. So one had a boy and then 3 months later, the other couple had a boy, and they're raising them as brothers.
Oh, so they did not have them at the exact same time.
Mm-hmm. No.
But it just, to me, just feels like the sole purpose of them doing all of that is just to get attention and money, and that's kind of iffy. And especially, we're going to raise our children this and this way. Like, sure, you can do whatever. Yeah. But I don't know. I think someone pointed out that they do share, I don't know, they might, in theory, because they're twins and identical twins, they share the same DNA, that they're cousins and siblings at the same time. But
well, I mean, that's just it. You're not. If you're aunt, like you're not. Like maybe genetically, your genetics could indicate a brother relationship. You aren't actually brothers, you're cousins, but there are tons of cousins who are raised as brothers, and there are kids who have no relation that are just neighbors, and they're sort of raised as brothers in one. So I mean, I don't have a problem with them calling the kids brothers or raising them. I mean, I don't have a problem with any of it. Let me go back. I don't have a problem with any of it, and I'm not judging them. I just am like, my mom was telling me the story, and then I looked them up, and I was just watching because they like always match and stuff, and they're both lawyers, and I'm just like, I do not like people around me that much. Like, I felt very overwhelmed.
Yeah, obviously they're not dumb because they're lawyers, and that requires a lot of knowledge and studying and being.
Okay, here's another thing. The whole time my mom was telling me that story, so my great-grandma, her sisters were twins. So this is a tangled story. So my great-grandpa married my great-grandma. My great-grandpa met my grandma's sister, who has an identical twin, and the sister decided she didn't want to go on a date with him after meeting him and sent the other twin. So he never knew. So essentially he kind of like had like a mini date with one twin and then had an actual date with the other twin, but then married my grandma, my great grandma. I might have
They
this
did
story
that on
wrong.
Long Island. They brought in two identical, well, not two identical twins, the set of identical twins men, and they kind of fooled a couple of the contestants when they're coming into the house.
Yeah.
They just said they betrayed, and they switched, and people didn't notice.
Yeah.
And then they showed up at the same time, like, surprise!
Well, so, and that's what I just kept imagining when my mom was telling me that story. I'm like, I would feel like my privacy was always invaded because when I walked into a room and there's, you know, my husband, but then I have to like make sure that it's my husband because even though they're identical, there's still just like a scar or like your muscle, like
I'm
if
sure
one
they
played
can tell
tennis and one
apart.
played football, like their muscle development would be different.
And I have twin nieces-in-law. My brother-in-law's brother-in-law has twin girls, identical twin girls, and you can tell them apart.
Yeah. I still just
Little
felt
things.
like very, I don't know. That was my thoughts. And like I said, this is not coming from a place of judgment. I want twins. I actually would be very happy to have trips. I want some triplets. They could all be identical.
That would be cool.
Yeah, I was talking to, I don't remember who I was talking to, but I was like, I want 2 sets of twins. And was it my mom? It was my mom, maybe, or maybe my sister. And who I was talking to was like, oh, no, you don't. But maybe you want triplets. And I'm like, I do want triplets.
I feel like I've told my mom too that I wish I would have twins, or I wish I was a twin sister. And she's like, that's so much work. Sure, having a child is a lot of work, but like,
I think it's worth it. I want to have, I still have a dream of having a bigger family, having like, you know, 3 or 4 kids, and maybe we'll adopt. Maybe we'll have babies. Maybe we'll do both.
hopefully.
We just have to, you know, be on the same page about whatever it is that we do. So,
That's have to be on the same page as your husband.
Yeah.
As like in general.
So when you did your walk, I think you must have really worked out because not long after your walk, I was notified that you had gotten all of your rings for the day. So congratulations.
Thank you.
We stalk each other via our Apple Watch. I could be like, I wonder how many steps Yenna's taken today. No.
Oh yeah, it snitches on you.
Well, I don't know.
Told me that I haven't exercising yesterday.
It just started telling me, like notifying me. So I don't know what I changed or if I changed anything because it never notifies me. But I always like anytime a ring goes off, like, you know, always sends me like a message. It's like, good job. You could do better.
It's like the pre-made replies.
Yeah.
Some of them are ridiculous.
They are. Some of them are mean. I'm like, why are these messages? They're sassy.
They are. Some of them are just like, wow, like I would not want to send, like, this is not really a joke.
Especially not via text. Because like if you're saying it, I feel like I can be quite sarcastic, but I feel like I say it goofy. Whereas in a text, you don't get the goof.
I don't think some of them are even like, they're just plain hateful. Wow. I don't know. One of them was like, why do you even bother or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
Weird.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember that one. Well, I'm going to show for the people watching, and sorry for the people listening. After she finished her rings, it immediately popped up. It said, competition. Why not challenge Yenna to a 7-day competition? And then it says compete. And I felt so pressured. I felt like I had to. I felt bullied, you know? I felt bullied. So I pushed compete. I was like, okay, fine. You know, she beat me last time. And I'm still bitter about it. So.
Have you seen the Apple Watch ads when they're like, keep closing your rings, close your rings every day? I'm like, this is obsessive.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, you did a good job yesterday. What about today? And I'm like, I didn't even put you on. Didn't even put you on until noon. So what are you talking about? Leave me alone. You don't know my life. You're not the boss of me, watch. And then at like midnight, I'm like, I gotta get these steps in. I gotta like move my body.
My yesterday, damn it. I ruined my perfect month. The try of my first perfect month. This is the 4th month that could be perfect. I have failed every single month.
Aww, that's so
mad.
I feel so bad. Next month. August will be your month. I have a
It
feeling.
better be. I'm gonna make sure. I need to set like alarms to my phone that alert me like 15 minutes before midnight. Have you closed your damn rooms?
Yeah, that's funny. Well, I totally sent you the compete request, so I don't know why it didn't alert you. I don't know why. But if we do compete, and then we need to chat, not in today's podcast, but maybe the next podcast episode that we film, we need to chat about our Spartan stuff and decide when we want to start training so we can, and how we want to, do we want to try and get a trainer for that to work with both of us? That's a good idea. Or do we want to do our own thing? Like, what do we want to do? Because, I mean, it'll have to be virtual. Oh, you want to compete? Oh, bring it. It said bring it. I'm bringing it. It's on. Your 7-day competition with Jenna starts Wednesday.
What day is it? Tuesday.
Tomorrow.
Your turn.
So,
what is it? Showtime.
Let's get ready to rumble. I don't know why that's my let's get ready to rumble. Oh, showtime. Okay. That's funny. Okay, so today I am interviewing Jill from Taking Weight Off. Jenna is new to Jill and Jill's channel, so I thought I would tell you guys both a little bit about Jill. So Jill is a single mom. She has overcome quite a bit of trauma and abuse. So this is a trigger warning before we dive into the interview, that those topics will be talked about, not in any great detail, but if that is going to be something that is triggering for you, then maybe there's timestamps down below, and there's also timestamps within the podcast. So jump around if you'd like to, or, watch next time. If you or someone that you love is abused or feels that you may be in some sort of toxic situation, there is a national hotline available. It's 1-800-799-SAFE, 1-800-799-SAFE. And just know that you're loved and you're not alone. And
please reach out if you feel the need.
Yeah. So Jill is wonderful. She is so stylish. She always looks so cute, and she does her makeup so great. I'm terrible at makeup, and I just feel like she lights up when she is wearing her outfits, which she rocks, or her, eye makeup. I am so jealous of people that can do eye makeup. My eyes are so sensitive that whenever I put powder on, my eyes go red, and then it doesn't even matter if it's waterproof. I have mascara everywhere, so all I can do is mascara. So, but are you wearing eye makeup right now? I can't tell.
Oh, I just have mascara.
You have pretty eyeballs.
Thank you.
You're welcome. People were commenting on your eyeballs in the podcast.
Really?
That doesn't sound creepy at all.
No, not at all.
No. So I'm so excited about Jill. Do you have any questions about Jill or anything, Jenna?
No, I'm just excited to hear the interview because I wasn't there when you interviewed her.
Me too. I'm excited to share it. Jill is awesome. As I've noted before, every single video, every single podcast episode rather, will have a corresponding blog post so that you can find all of their socials. If you are watching on YouTube, their links are in the description below. And let's just dive right into this interview. Thanks, Jenna.
Now, it's time for the main event of today's HIIT episode. Let's welcome our special guest.
Thanks so much for being on my maybe podcast.
You're welcome. I'm super excited. I was so excited when you reached out.
In your most recent video, I think on your main channel, you have a big upcoming thing happening in your life. Want to share a little bit about that?
Yes, planning to move to Charlotte, which is 2.5 hours away from where I am. And it's one of those things that's happening quite rapidly because I just sat down one day and I have been toying with the idea for a long time, but I couldn't make it happen, or I just never wanted to make it happen because I know it takes a lot to move. And so I just told myself, if you are going to move, you're going to have to do it now. And you're going to have to do it before your kids start school. So with that being said, yeah, we're going to visit Charlotte. We've already visited Charlotte. We fell in love with the city. And we are now going to go next week and apply for apartments. I've been this past week calling places and looking into areas and researching and doing all the things. But yeah, we're really excited. It's going to be a lot of work. And the crazy thing about it is that I'm not 100% sure that this is the route that I'm going, but I'm leaning more towards this because I think it'll just be the easiest thing to do. And I think it'll take so much stress and pressure. And I think it'll be way, way cheaper. But I'm also planning to, whatever we can fit in the car, that's what we take. And if we can't fit other things, then we're going to sell everything. So that's going to be crazy and chaotic and hectic until everything gets sold. But that's kind of the route that I'm leaning towards going to.
For you and your two kiddos, they're 11 and 15.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all are just gonna
little Dotson Bella.
go have a brand new adventure.
Yeah. I love it because I know nobody there. I don't have any family. So it's a complete fresh start, which is what I feel the three of us, well, the four of us, Bella, she's happy wherever she is, but the three of us need a fresh start for sure.
That's so exciting. And I'm excited because that's pretty close to where I'm at, where we moved, which is, that's again, with that, like the weirdness of like YouTube, and things like, I don't know. It's like North Carolina, I feel, is pulling people to it.
Yeah, good. I didn't know that Charlotte had YouTubers until I started calling apartment complexes and started explaining, this is what I do. This is how I can show you my income. And a lot of leasing agents were telling me, you're not the only person. There's other influencers here. And I was like, wait, what? And they would start to get excited because here where I live, it's kind of a behind the, I call it, and maybe not everyone that lives here would say that. So if you do live here, I apologize if you're offended, but I call it a behind the times city. And it's a big city and it's growing and whatnot. But, people just don't, a lot of people that I meet just don't even watch YouTube, don't even know that that's an option, or that making money on YouTube is an option. So people are always super confused and just like, do what? So it'll be exciting to go somewhere where people get it, more people get it anyways.
It's exciting. I know I always hesitate when people ask what you do. Like, I'm like, I do stuff online. I always give and my husband's always like, she does YouTube. This is her YouTube channel. You should go follow her.
Friends they're so quick, like friends and family. I remember when I was married, my ex-husband always said that to me. He'd be like, why don't you tell people? I just, or my friends, I would go somewhere with them and people would say, what do you do? I'm like, well, I kind of have this, girl, you better talk about it. And I'm like, yeah, I know. So I keep telling myself I'm going to get business cards so I can start handing them out. But
well, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I always get, I think when people I know tell me that they watch my stuff, even like if it's my fault that they know about it. Because I haven't kept it a secret from anybody that I know. But when like my husband has talked about my YouTube channel a lot, like in his job and stuff. And so I'll meet like his coworkers and they'll be like, oh yeah, I've watched some of your videos. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, you get embarrassed. You're like,
what?
You did what? It's like, I'm okay with thousands of strangers watching me. But people that know me, no, you can't watch me.
Yeah, same. It's fun. I'm excited for your new adventure. And I don't know why we would have talked about this. So my husband is running some Spartan races. So he's doing a Spartan race tomorrow. And then he's got one next month, which y'all probably won't be there yet. I think the one next month's up close to Charlotte. There's a one close to Charlotte and there's a one close to like Asheville. So I might have those switched. But yeah, I don't know. It's fun. Well, I'm excited I'm excited that you're here. So, what
Me
I would
too.
like to talk about mostly is your weight loss journey.
Mhm.
And so, have you always struggled with your weight?
Looking back, it's not that I struggled with my weight, it's that I struggled with confidence and self-image, positive self-image. I always had lower self-esteem, and I always would compare myself to other girls and say, I wish I looked like them. Because looking back, I always had the story. I was always overweight. And I would look back at pictures and realize, no, actually I wasn't. So I did always have an issue when it came to food. I always ate a lot more than other people around me would. And I noticed a comfort from it. And I especially noticed a comfort from it when I went into high school, because, we start developing, and how girls have to deal with that problem in that process of, you have this body one day, and then the next day you're dealing with hips and butt and thighs, and you're like, where did all this come from?
Yeah.
So I started developing big hips and big thighs, and I would look at my friends and I'm like, they're tiny. Like, why can't I have their thighs? Why can't I have their hips? My butt is so big. And, this was back in the 90s. So this was before the Kardashians made it a trendy thing to, have a curvaceous, voluptuous body. And so for me, I had, my role models were Kate Moss and very, very thin, stick thin women that I'm never going to achieve that body figure. We didn't have Kim Kardashian. J-Lo had just started when I had gotten out of high school. She had just entered the scene. So she kind of started making it a little more, not friendly, but I was able to relate to her, and I could finally see someone that kind of looked like me in the public eye. So for me, I started starving myself, and I started, trying to achieve that body type that back then I didn't know I could never actually physically achieve. Like Cindy Crawford used to have this workout. I was like, oh, it's a supermodel workout. It's not going to be that hard. And oh my gosh, it was an intense workout. So I would do that. I would do like a tons of crunches at the end of the night. I was barely eating. And this went on for about 3 or 4 months. And then what brought me out of it, and this was my first real experience with binging, was I overheard my mom talking to my aunt, and she was talking about how I just wasn't the most pleasant person to be around, basically. And it killed me. It destroyed me, because I knew, I was hangry all the time. I was, also dealing with the hormones of being a teen, and dealing with being in high school, and all the things that, being a teen, the things that you have to deal with. So that was my first experience running to food and having that comfort and being able to correlate the two. I'm sad, I'm going to go eat, and now I feel better. So I blew up after that. Like, I started just gaining weight very rapidly, and I started hiding my body. So when I was losing weight, I'd wear these cute dresses, and that's another thing too. I've always been into fashion. I've always loved fashion. I've always loved makeup. It's always been my thing. So I was now ashamed. So I started hiding my body. And again, I'm grateful for the fact that it was in the 90s. So I was able to, and it was the trendy thing to do, to wear the big baggy pants. So it kind of fit the style. So I was okay with it. But then I remember just the way that I felt. I hated how I felt, and I hated how my body was just getting bigger, and I felt like I didn't have control. So when I turned 19, I was introduced to diet pills. And I think at that point, my highest weight was around 200, and was introduced to diet pills, started taking them. They were insane. I was like, oh my gosh, I have tons of, I don't feel like eating. So I pretty quickly lost, I think it was about close to 40 pounds, I think. And then I moved to Atlanta, and I lost even more weight. From there, I started having really severe panic attacks. And I think it was kind of associated with I feel like the diet pills brought the panic attacks on. As I've talked to people about this, people have said, oh, I think that's like one of those things that you just would have dealt with, but the diet pills just kind of brought them on quicker. Whatever the case, I don't know, but I know I started having panic attacks because of the diet pills, because the diet pills, they were not good. And it's something I highly encourage anyone to just stay far, far away from. They had my heart rate up all hours of the night, all hours of the day. I was so moody. So when I was on them, I would just be on this high. And then 2 to 3 hours later, I would just crash and I would just feel awful. So I'm glad I never got addicted to them. And I hated that feeling so much that I was able to come off of them. But the minute that I came off of them, I started worrying about gaining weight. And I wasn't in the healthiest relationship with someone because, he would say things like, oh, if you just lost 5 more pounds, you'd be so hot. Or if you got fat, I wouldn't love you. I wouldn't find you attractive. And so I was dealing with a lot of insecurities and, I loved this man. So I didn't want to disappoint him or I didn't want him to leave me. So I was just doing whatever I could to get my body and keep it as small as I could. And then I met my ex-husband and that became a really abusive relationship, both emotionally and physically. So that's when I started turning to food even more. I got pregnant. I gained 100 pounds. I also, in that time, because I was a smoker, so I quit smoking. So I also had that along with, me dealing with, because it was when I was pregnant with my son was when the first time he was actually physical with me. And so that is again when I turned to food and started just kind of, that's when the relationship with food really started happening and really started kind of getting out of control. Never lost that weight after having my son. And then when I had my daughter 2.5 years later, I got up to 311 pounds and I told myself I would never get that big again. Lost a good bit of weight. And it's just basically since then, it's just been an up and down cycle, like me kind of trying to get to lose weight. But the thing is that when I would lose weight, I was number one, stuck in an abusive marriage where I was never going to be healthy. I was never going to be healthy mentally as long as I stayed in that relationship. So I got myself out of that. It got me and my kids out of that. And now I'm focusing on healing from all of the trauma that I've been through and really, truly learning to love myself, learning to love the body that I'm in, learning to appreciate my body. And on top of that, losing weight. So when I get down to my goal weight, I've put learning to love myself and changing myself from the inside out as a priority. So when I get down to my goal weight, I will love myself even more. And it won't be one of those things where I'm still the same person, just thinner. So that's basically synopsis of everything I've been through.
Yeah, that's rough. And you said so many things that I think that so many people go through, having a significant other that kind of belittles and puts your worth on your body.
Yeah.
When that's not true. And we do that to ourselves. At least I do that to myself where I define my worth by my body and the way that I look. And that's so sad. And it's something that I wish that we could just snap our fingers and change. It's so hard though, because because you recognize that that's not what you want to do, and that's not true. It's so hard to separate it. And what do you do to actively work towards building up your self-worth now, as opposed to waiting for, that one day when you're a certain size?
I notice a big thing that I do is I'll look in the mirror and I'll just be like, ugh, just utter disgust. And I have to change that narrative. I have to look at my body in a different light, and I have to stop with the looks and feelings of disgust and look at it and tell myself, you don't like the way that it looks, but it's going to, it's going down. My biggest thing is my stomach. That's the one place where a lot of my weight is in. And it's weird because I'm an hourglass shape. So I have shape to my body, but then I also have this large stomach. So clothes don't fit, the way that I like them to, or, I have like all these issues because I have a butt, thighs, hips, and now a stomach to accommodate. But I try to just, be more patient with myself and forgiving with myself, and not positive affirmations. That's something I do too. You're beautiful, you're kind, and stop not just focusing on my outer appearance, but also working and correcting the inner parts of me, the flaws, the things that I don't like about me, but also, learning to set boundaries and learning to respect myself and learning to love myself, and not allow toxic people into my life and continue to, have them determine my narrative, because their narrative is not reality. Like my ex-husband, as toxic as he was always pushing his insecurities off on me. And so I was never going to be good enough for him. And that's something that I had to realize. And it's also this thing about seeking validation from others. That's something that I'm constantly working on too, that, my opinion and the way that I choose to live my life, people are going to have opinions on it, but it doesn't matter, because ultimately what I do with my life, you only live once, so if you're constantly living for other people, you're never truly going to be happy with you. So it's just a whole internal thing that has to go on in me. And then I feel like the external is just going to be a bonus, because I say it on my weight loss channel all the time. I'm working from inside out. I want to do things. I want to live a more active, healthy lifestyle. And the benefit of doing that is going to be losing weight and, looking better in clothes, and being able to, eventually shop at a straight size store and not have to just stick to plus size stores and be so frustrated with fashion and whatnot. So ideally, it's not all about the weight. And that's another thing that I'm trying to not focus so much on my channel. And I struggle with that, because you have so many people that want to know, how much weight did you lose? How much weight are you losing? What's going on? Like scale, number. And I'm more so wanting to internally change the insides of me, learning to respect myself, learning to love myself, learning to set those boundaries with other people. And then I just am looking at the weight loss as an extra added bonus for the future and what's coming.
So I love that. So you said a few things. You try to look at yourself and give yourself positive affirmations, and you are working on kind of being self-affirming, and giving yourself validation, which really works with those self-affirmations. Something I noticed about you is that your makeup is beautiful. Like you are so talented. Like I love your eyeshadow, and then you've got like this cute top on. And so fashion is something that's really important to you. How does fashion help you? How does it help you on your weight loss journey?
For me, it's fashion, hair, and makeup. It's all of it, nails. It's the whole works. It's one of those things. I grew up as a young child, and it's something I noticed about other people, what they were wearing, if they had their nails done, how their hair was done. And I would always compliment other women, like my teachers, like, I love this and I love that. And so I just grew up loving fashion. And when I became overweight and pregnant, there wasn't a whole lot of options back then. I first got pregnant in 2006. So to see it evolve into what it's evolved now, it makes me really happy to see where it's come, because in 2006, I had no options. Me going to deliver my son, I was 250 pounds. That probably puts me at about a size 18, I would say. And there was not a whole lot of options for me. So I remember having to wear sweatpants and big shirts and just feeling like I wasn't myself. I'll take it back to last year when I had my hysterectomy, and I was so bloated for so long that none of my jeans fit. And it was like I had to adapt to a new style, and I hated it, because I feel so much better when I can look at my outfit and feel confident in what I'm wearing and know that it's my style and something that I love, and not something that I'm having to force myself to like because there's no other options out there. So for me, fashion is it's everything, from the shoes to jeans to the shirt, and it just makes you feel good. It makes you feel confident and happy. And I literally don't do it for anyone but me, because as a YouTuber, what it's like. We don't really go many places. We're at home. That's where our job is. And that's where we record. I don't know for you, but that's where I record. That's where I edit. And I spend a lot of time at home. So I will get up in the morning and just do all those things for me. And it just makes me feel so much better. And, losing weight is getting me more excited. If you go over to Miss Green Eyes, I've started doing, which is my other channel, but you've seen me start doing more fashion try-ons because the clothes are starting to fit better. And I'm just feeling overall better and more confident and just excited, because fashion and even makeup, I can go into Sephora. Girl, you could leave me in Sephora by myself for 4 hours and I will never get bored. I will sit there, especially with pre-COVID, being able to swatch and try things on and looking at the textures and feeling the textures and swatching eyeshadows. Oh my gosh. I can it's my candy store. I love it there. I love all of it.
That's awesome. I wish I loved, I like pretty things, but I wouldn't say that I'm immersed in fashion.
Yeah.
It pulls out that happy, but I can see it. I can see it when, whether it's on your Instagram or it's on your YouTube or a fashion haul, I can see that clothing and makeup, it kind of ignites a happy in you. And it's fun to see. That's really awesome. So my next question, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, so take your time.
Okay.
But what are some of your whys? Why do you want to lose weight? And you kind of already touched on several reasons why, but I just want to ask specifically, what are 5 whys why you want to lose weight?
The first thing that comes to mind. So I started this journey last year and I was 323 pounds. That's the most that I've weighed. And I just remember I literally couldn't even do this with my chair. I didn't have the mobility in my body that I was used to having. My knees were hurting like crazy. I love to dance, and I would go to dance class and I was no longer able to do the dances that I was so freely able to do before I started putting on more weight. And that's my biggest why is just the mobility, being able to cross my legs, being able to do yoga. And I'm a super flexible person, so I still have that flexibility to me, but I have a stomach, I have thighs that gets in the way. So I can only go so far. I can't sit crisscross applesauce. That bothers me. There's just a lot of things. At some point I couldn't even, it wasn't even comfortable for me to sit down. I had to lay down. That was how I was comfortable, because sitting was just so uncomfortable for me. So that is why number 1 for sure. Why number 2 is going to be a more vain thing, but a more shallow, I guess. But it's fashion. I want to be able to go, if I go into when my children and I visited Charlotte for the first time, my daughter wanted to shop. And so we went into, I can't remember the name of the store, but it had a plus size section. It was literally this big. And the biggest size they had was a 3X. And when I pulled it up, I was like, wait, how is this a 3X? And I just felt so out of place. So for me, I just want to be able to go and shop in any store and feel like I belong, and not have to, because I still have, while the plus size industry and the fashion industry has evolved since I, was a teenager, it still, in my opinion, has a long way to go. But, so I still see a lot of things that I am attracted to that I would love to wear that I don't see in plus size that I feel would be so easy to make, but we're not, those options aren't available to us. So it's definitely so I can be able to go and shop in any store. And
I love that. I do want to say, I don't think that that's a vanity thing at all. Like, very obviously, whenever you talk about fashion, even just here right now, you'd kind of light up. It's something that you're passionate about. And I don't think that that there's, I don't think that that's a less worthy why. Like, being able to live your passion freely is something that we all want to do. At least I know I do. And I think if part of that is fashion, then that's awesome. And I don't think that's vain, not to discount what you said or anything, but but you're awesome. And I love your passion. Like, your passion for fashion and makeup makes me feel more excited about it. And that's an awesome thing to be able to share to share your excitement in a way that I think uplifts others, because it definitely has that effect on me. So
I've definitely heard a lot of people say that, especially when it came to makeup, because I always had a passion for fashion, and, but I never really talked about it much. I just kind of expressed myself in my fashion. But the more that I started connecting with more women, especially through YouTube and stuff like that, I started realizing how much of a big part fashion was in my life. And especially when I got pregnant and started gaining weight and I didn't have the accessibility to the clothes that I was able to wear prior to becoming plus size, I really started realizing how big of a role that fashion plays in my life. And, getting up to 230 pounds and trying to shop at Fashion Nova or trying to shop at, Shein and these trendier places that do have plus size clothes, but they just didn't fit me right. And so it was frustrating. And now that I'm, able to fit the biggest size that they have better than I was since I've lost some weight, it just makes me happy and I just love it. But I would say number 3 is I just feel better overall. Like, I want to feel better. When I visualize what I want. Wait, what was my number 1? I just want to make sure that my number 1
mobility, okay. And then fashion.
Okay. So number 3 is going to be, when I envision my life and what I want it to be, it's living an active lifestyle. It's getting up. It's, being amongst the people and, walking to coffee shops or walking, like we stated, I'm moving to Charlotte. And so, for me to take public transit or maybe drive downtown and just walk around and do things like that, going on nature trails, taking more walks outside, just not staying in bed all day, or one of those things, because you as a YouTuber know how when you do a lot of editing, or if you have an editing day, I don't know, I specifically kind of have editing days where I just need to get editing done. So those days can be really just very immobile. So I want to, even on those days, walk somewhere and edit there for the day and then walk back. So I have that activity. And then on top of that, keep working out, because what I'm starting to realize is that my depression, my anxiety, my panic attacks, they all become more manageable and are more manageable. I just said that, but they're more manageable for me when I'm exercising and when I am more active throughout the day. And I also feel like, because I have a binge eating disorder too. So when I'm busy and when I have things to do, my mind isn't constantly revolving around food. So I'm, busy, I'm active. I'm not thinking about, because I'm not bored. So I'm not constantly thinking about eating or food or whatnot. So, being more active and living a more active lifestyle and getting outside more and feeling more confident to even get outside. Before I started 75 Hard, doing 75 Hard, which I started it March 1st. I was not super agoraphobic, but I was, in a sense that I really didn't leave my house much. And so for me, the thought of walking a mile or two away from my car, which was a safe place for me because it was an easy way to escape and get me back to my house, which is my ultimate safe place, it was really scary for me. So when I first started doing it, I just started doing, I would walk up and down the street and I would walk far enough to where I was stepping out my comfort zone a little bit, but then I would make sure that my house was within distance if I was, if I needed to escape or whatnot. But in that process, I realized the importance and the power that being outside has. So definitely, being outside more, being more active, just living a more active lifestyle overall. Number 4 is definitely, obviously, my kids. I want to not only show them that anything is possible, and that you can change your lifestyle and you can change the way that you eat and you can change your body. But I don't want them to see me continue to struggle with my weight. I don't want to miss out. That's such an important thing, to miss out on things. When I went to Charlotte back in April, I'm going to try not to cry because it was really emotional for me to miss out on this part of their lives. But we stayed in this really nice area, and it had like these little paddle boats. And with things like that, I'm always really like, oh, great. Is there going to be a weight limit? And, you just always kind of, you're afraid to ask. So you see, are there signs saying, this is the weight limit or whatever. So of course I saw there was a sign, if you're not one person can weigh over 250 pounds. And so I watched my children get in the boat and experience this where I couldn't. And it destroyed me because they were having fun. And I was sitting on the sidelines, sitting there trying my best not to cry. And I'm trying my best not to do it right now. But it was a really eye-awakening moment for me because, they want so bad to go to an amusement park. And I physically cannot fit in a roller coaster. I think about flying, I don't want to have to purchase two seats, but I'm so claustrophobic because I've gotten so big and I already deal with anxiety to begin with. I can't even imagine being in such a small area and being crunched and stuffed. So it's just so much that I feel like my weight is holding me back with experiencing things with my kids. And that's something that I don't ever want them to have to deal with. I'm praying that they don't ever have to deal with weight issues or struggles or anything, but they are definitely obviously high up there on the list, and doing this for them and being around for longer for them, and being healthier. I miss the days of, chasing them around, but now we're coming on those days where, like I said, going to amusement parks, and I will take them, but I also am selfishly like, I want to lose more weight and be able and wait to experience that with them until I can experience it with them fully, because I don't want another reoccurrence of that, the little paddle boats, because I hated the way that it made me feel. And, I got down on myself, like, you put yourself here. And, it just kind of pushed me to strive even harder and to keep working.
This just makes me even more excited, like listening to you talk. Like, one, it breaks my heart. Like, it breaks my heart for the you that had to sit there and watch your children paddle off. But I mean, like, it's amazing. There really shouldn't have been a but there. It's amazing the example that you set for your kids, though, and that you are there and that you do encourage them to have that physical activity, but also that you have this courage to completely start over, specifically so you can live this active and a healthy and adventurous life that you want. Like, I just feel like Charlotte is going to be so awesome for you. Like, you're going to be able to move so much and ride those roller coasters. And that's roller coasters. That was definitely like, that got me, because that's something, anytime theme parks come up with my husband, I'm like, oh, maybe not.
Yeah.
And then they had this episode of 911. I don't know if you ever saw that show, but like one of the first episodes, the roller coaster breaks and it's got a rather large guy and he's like hanging and he's trying to hold himself and then he just lets go. And I'm just like,
yeah, I remember that.
Mortified of something like that happening. So I love theme parks. So I definitely feel that way too.
Yeah, me too. And that's something that they've never experienced, because I've been overweight the whole, like, pretty much ever since they were born. So they've never seen me super thin. As a matter of fact, Ava at one point was like, I don't want you to lose weight. Like, because she felt like I was going to be a different person. And I had to keep reminding her, I'm still going to be the same person. I'm actually going to be a better person. I'm going to be able to be a better mom. I'm going to be, able to to just be better overall. And, you know, it was one of those things. So, and I kind of get it because, you know, she's only known me in one way. And, you know, me trying to better myself and look better and feel better, she kind of was like attached to the idea of, you know, this is how you look and I don't want you to look any other way.
Yeah.
And then, you know, selfishly, she was also thinking, well, like, hey, if you lose weight, then, you know, men are probably going to start looking at you more. And then you're just going to start leaving me for men. And I'm like, that will never happen.
Yeah.
Like, I will eventually start dating, but I will never leave you. And I'm like, it's going to be the opposite. You guys are going to leave me. And that's coming up quick. And that's another thing too. Not necessarily, well, I guess this could be number 5 is the fact that I feel like I have been holding myself back with my weight. I feel like I've been punishing myself. I feel like because I don't, you know, I've been so hurt by men before in the past that I'm afraid to get into relationships. So I tell myself, if you just continue to eat and you continue to binge and eat your feelings, then no one's going to want you and they're not going to find you attractive. So you're protecting yourself. And at the end of the day, I know that I'm not, and I'm just making myself worse. So wanting to just, I'm trying to, I've lost my train of thought because it's so hard for me to talk about because it's such a personal thing for me to talk about how,
well, and what it sounds like you're kind of describing is that you've almost turned your body into like this safe but toxic place for you to hide. And you want to let that go. And
I've been hiding for far too long. And that is a reason I want to change that around. And I want to, you know, be able to express myself again with fashion. I want to be out there and live freely. You know, I don't want anything. I don't want to keep holding myself back. You know, I want to travel the world. I want to get on airplanes, but I don't think that I'll do it. And you know, something I've noticed too, as I've gained weight, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but, you know, I will get the higher up I get, the more I fear that my weight is not going to hold a balcony. So I don't get out on balconies anymore. I don't like to ride elevators because I feel like, you know, I weigh too much and I'm going to, you know, be the one to stop the elevator and then we're going to be stuck. You know, I feel more claustrophobic. So if I'm on public transportation or I'm in a bus where the seat is really small, or if I'm in a row, I have to be on the end. I can't ever be in the middle of a row where people are, you know, going to be next to me where I'm going to feel crushed or like I don't have a place to escape. And I think that started coming the more that the bigger my body was getting, because I felt like it was harder for me to escape. And it would be more of an inconvenience for me as an overweight woman if I'm in the middle of an aisle to, you know, have to get up to go to the bathroom or have to get up because of whatever reason. So it's definitely holding me back from living my full, true, authentic self and the life that I want for myself. So yeah, that would be reason number 5. I think we went through all 5, right?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Those are great whys. Those are really awesome whys. I memean, everybody's whys, why they want to, are awesome because it's what will propel you forward. When you started, because I feel like, if I'm correct, and I might be remembering this wrong, you kind of started and then you didn't post on your YouTube channel for quite a while. What prompted you to start your weight loss journey, the part of your journey that you're on right now, and share it on YouTube?
Okay, so yeah, I had this channel. I've had it for years, and I just ultimately stopped. And then I started doing it on Miss Green Eyes. And then I kept going back and forth, like I need to separate it. So it was June 23rd of last year is when I started being honest with myself. And I told myself, Jill, you've got to stop hiding from men. You've got to stop, you know, making this excuse and eating and getting bigger and bigger and bigger because you're trying to protect yourself from men and whatnot. And so it was coming to that realization. It was vocalizing it and saying it out loud and letting me sit in those feelings and kind of be able to talk to a therapist about those feelings as well. It's when I made the decision to make a choice to love myself and put myself first and do all the things. Now, last year, I wasn't able to fully lose weight like I wanted to. I had to put my weight loss journey on pause because I ended up having to go get surgery, and then I found out I had cervical cancer, which ended up turning me into having to essentially get a partial hysterectomy. So all of that, and in addition to that, I also quit smoking when I woke up from my hysterectomy because I hated it. I was like, thank you. I don't know. I always say I blame it on the drugs, but I was tired of my kids yelling at me every time I went to go smoke, and I really didn't really have any friends that smoked anymore. So I was the only person that I knew that smoked. And so I was just like, now's the time. And I just did it. So all of that stuff just kind of, I had to put it on pause, and I had to put it on pause it was October. So October, November, December, January, February, March. So for a full 6 months. And I just started filming, and I was just like, you know what? I said in my head, I want to work out for 90 days straight. Because I always knew that working out and exercise was something essentially I need because of the fact it helps me feel better. And when I feel better, it's like a ripple effect. When I feel better, I want to look better. And when I want to look better, I want to put better foods into my body. And it's just a ripple effect that just overall, it's what kind of essentially is the thing that I most need. So she started working out, and I told myself, I'm going to do a challenge. And I started recording it in secret, in silence. And so when I accomplished the first 30 days, I was like, okay, I just did this. And so that's when I decided I'm going to come back and I'm going to do this. And I started uploading more. And I had really bad experiences with having a weight loss channel in the past where comments would really get to me, and comments would send me into a binge episode. And it was really hard because you have so many people's opinions now. So it's not just your weight loss journey. My intention is just to share it with the world. But when you share something with the world and, you're not losing it fast enough, or, people are like, oh, well, I lost it this way. That's the only way to do it. So that's how you need to do it too. So now you start getting everyone's opinions, and if you have a bad week or you have a bad month, then people stop with the excuses. If you wanted this bad enough, you don't have an eating disorder, stop it with that. That's just an excuse. And oh my gosh, people can just be so mean. So I was really scared to come back into doing this. But I just told myself, you're just going to have to stop. You're just going to have to block everything out. And if someone says something that you don't like, that hurts your feelings, you're just going to have to, I kind of taught myself, you always know if a comment's going to be negative by the very first part of it, especially if someone says, not trying to be mean, but if I see that, I don't even read the rest. So I'm kind of gotten myself in the habit of, once I start reading something, if I know it's not going anywhere that's going to be positive or productive, I just immediately block and delete. Like, I don't even care what you have to say. So I had to get myself in that habit. And I also had to realize
that's an awesome habit for resiliency, not just online though. Because people on a weight loss journey, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you do it like we've chosen to do and we're sharing our journey, no matter what, it really is an individual thing. It's our journey. Everything we do has to come from within. And when people, you can even be doing things and having success, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. People are going to come at you sideways, from all aspects of your life with opinions on what you should and shouldn't do. So I love that resiliency and that not engaging, which essentially, if you know that negativity is coming by like the first few words of the comment, or like if you're, someone who's not sharing online and the first few words, just kind of training yourself to have like a response like, oh, thanks for caring about me and my journey. Like,
yeah,
you can have your opinion and I can live my life.
Exactly.
So I love that. And I love that you don't read it. Like, I think that's so healthy. That is such a healthy habit.
It took me a while. And it took a couple of tries on this channel, and me having to walk away for so long, and then having to realize, and it also helped the fact that I've been doing YouTube for so long, and I've kind of conditioned myself to have thicker skin. And also on top of that, like I said, just stop reading comments when I know it's not going in a good place. And realizing though that's a trigger for me. And essentially it was holding me back. So, it helps me doing a weight loss channel to be accountable. I love it because you do have so many, and a lot of times we do focus because those people that are negative, they're so negative and so hurtful. and so just cruel that it's hard to start focusing on the other like hundreds to thousands of people that are over there cheering you on and happy for your successes. And it's like, you have to drown out that 1% of the people that are watching you that have the negative attitude, and really focus on those, the other 99% of people that are really encouraging and, are coming from a place of love and, are being your cheerleaders. Essentially. It's so awesome to do this online. And some people will tell you, don't do it online. But I love it because for me, it gives me a place to be able to come to vent and get to know people that know where I'm coming from and know struggles, because a lot of times you can feel so alone in a lot of these things that you deal with. So to come together and know that you have common ground with other people, it also helps you to not feel like you're the only one in this world dealing with these issues.
I definitely agree. And it really is, it's sharing your journey online. It's definitely something to think about. And if you know you're going to think about it for too long, then just start. Like, don't wait to start your journey because you're debating on sharing it online. But there is going to be that negativity aspect. And I love that you've shared ways that you've kind of overcome it. Earlier, you were talking about 75 hard. What made you decide to do 75 hard? And when you worked out for 30 days straight, was that part of 75 hard, or was that something you did before?
No, I did that last year, and I actually ended up doing it. I actually ended up extending it to 90 days, and I was just doing it in 30-day increments. So I did 30 days of, I think it was just moving for 30 days for 30 minutes a day. And then the second month, it was doing a stair challenge where for 5 minutes every single day I took stairs, and I either did them outside or I have a staircase in my home. So I did that. And then I was also doing an extra 25 minutes. So I was still doing 30 minutes of cardio every single day. And then the third month, I can't remember what I did. Oh, I think I did a Chloe Ting arm challenge. So I did 20 minutes of cardio and then her arm workout for 10 minutes. So I did that last year. And then 75 hard. So I went and I had my hysterectomy, and I gained weight, and I was so incredibly bloated. And I've already shared that I'm really, really self-conscious about my stomach. So for me, again, I was having to wear these baggy clothes that I didn't like. I hated the way that I looked. I didn't feel comfortable and confident. And he cleared me at 6 weeks, which I think was sometime in February. And I just kind of started doing things really slow because I could tell if I was going a little too hard, and I would just kind of reel it back in a little bit. So I didn't really want to focus so much on trying to pressure myself into doing anything too intense. But once I, kind of got in the groove of exercising again, and, my stomach continued to heal, I was just like, okay, I need something, because I was struggling. And I was on TikTok and I just heard everywhere, everyone saying 75 hard, 75 hard. And I'm like, what is this? And when I learned what it was, I was like, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, it was last year that I learned about it, and people were talking about it. And I was like, there is no way. I'm not doing 45-minute work. No. So I didn't even give it a second thought. And then sometime in February, I saw it again, and I was like, I can do this. And who was I watching? I cannot remember her name, but I was watching someone, and she was entertaining the idea, and she was asking subscribers, should I do it? And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to take this as my sign to go ahead and do it. And I don't know if I announced it right away or if I gave myself some time. I think I announced it, that I was doing it. And oh my gosh, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I mean, I didn't love every aspect of it, and I didn't love it every day, but looking back, I miss the feeling that I got basically essentially the working out. The working out was really great. And also I loved the reading, because 75 hard had so many aspects of things that I wanted to do. I wanted to start getting outside more. And I was always so afraid to, because of my agoraphobia and my comfort zone. that I really wouldn't get outside much. So it had that aspect of it. And then it had the aspect of reading 10 pages of a book a day. And I'm constantly buying books and never setting aside the time to read it. So there was just so many things that appealed to me that I wanted to do. So I was just like, let's just do it. Let's just do it.
I love it. I love 75 Hard. I also hated it. Like the end part of 75 Hard, like those last 15 days were pretty miserable. Like that was definitely like pushing myself to go through those last 15 days. Like, I feel like that's the whole point of like the mental toughness aspect, but I loved it. There is something that I want to talk about. So I love Britney Spears. So can I just say that I love that you did a Britney Spears dance? Can you talk about like why and like what you did? Because that was a big part of your 75 Hard and your workout.
Okay. So I've always loved to dance. That's another thing. And, growing up, I was always super self-conscious and I was like, I can't dance. Like, I'm just going to watch people. So her, the night, oh my gosh, I could not stop watching that girl dance. She was just so amazing. And I always wanted her body. And again, it was a body I was never going to be able to attain because we're just not built the same way. But I mean, I just always loved her. And when that song came out and that video, again, I'm very fashion and makeup obsessed. So, oh my gosh, her fashion and her makeup in that video is just so beautiful. And the dance, like I just always loved the dance. And I was just, as I think I was, I don't remember when the song came out, but I was in my 20s. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I could dance like this. So when I started getting out of my comfort zone and I started dancing and going to dance classes at the gym about 4 years ago. And I absolutely fell in love with doing that and started, being comfortable with dancing and dancing around people. Cause it's one of those things that I would do by myself, but being in a dance class and being, doing the guided, like looking at someone and learning it and being taught, I felt comfortable because I still get to the point where I'm like, put me on a dance floor. I don't know what I'm doing, but put me in a class where I'm following someone and I can eventually pick it up. So I just was watching it one day and I was just like, you know what? I want to learn this dance. And so you go on YouTube, you can literally search anything and pretty much find it. So I was like, breakdown of Slave for You. And there was this girl, it was 3 girls and the channel's called Girl Talk. And so they do one part of the dance and I just learned it and it took me forever. And I still don't have it down because I will watch her and I'm like, she does like little jumps and she does her legs, cause dancing is like, you are literally going from top to bottom and you are moving everything. And so with doing that dance, I became so strategic and it's such a fast dance and you really have to move so quickly that I really couldn't. There was one time and I watched it when I was doing my 75 Hard compilation. I was like, oh, I had that dance down in that part right there, not fully, but I had it down more because I noticed I was moving more of my body and it was more fluid than just, strategically just getting the moves down. And so I loved doing it and I loved learning it. And I keep telling myself, because, the smaller I get, the quicker I'm going to be able to move. So it's like, I have the dance down, but now it's just adding, the hips and the jumps and the moves and the legs and all of it together to make it look better and make it flow better. So I am not giving up on that dance. Now I'm going to learn the full dance. And one day I'm going to, and I have that footage to go back and compare, so I'm super excited for that.
I can't wait to see. I totally believe it, which Brian Friedman, I think he's a choreographer and he's got a lot of stuff on YouTube, but he's the one who choreographed that. And I love him. And I love Britney Spears. I love dancing. Like I have a pretty big passion for dancing.
Me too.
I was going to tell you too. So there's this girl, I used to go to her classes forever ago. And it was called Dirty Dancing at the time. She's changed it to Dirty Licious. Her name's Erica Tanner. So she was just an instructor at one of the local gyms. And I specifically joined this gym so that I could take her hip hop or dirty dancing class. And it was awesome. But she has turned it into like this online course where you can pay like a monthly subscription and they upload new dances every week. So they create the dances and then you learn them, and they're a little bit less complicated, but still out of like my comfort zone.
Yeah.
So you should totally check that out. Dirtylicious.
I'm like, I was about to put it in my phone, but I forgot I'm on my phone. I have to remember that. Yeah, that's another thing.
I'll try and send you her Instagram or something, but it's awesome.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely want to get into dance classes again because that's where I feel most like myself. And it's such a good workout. Like some people, you know, I'll film workouts and a majority of my workouts are dancing, and people will say, you're not even working out. And it's so easy. It really is so easy to look at a dance and be like, that is so easy. And then you start to do it and you're like,
that's the cool thing about Britney Spears. She makes it look effortless. Like anyway, like so much of what she does, like, you know, you can't even see it. Like just, well, for one, she's a very captivating person. So like, she's just such a good performer, but, yeah. So it's a very complicated. Dancing can be very
I remember looking at it and going, I got this. I was taking dance class. I took it for like 3 years. Like, I've got this. And then doing even the broken down, slowed down version of it was like, okay, I've got this. And then she's like, all right, now to tempo. And I'm like, whoa, wait, what? And I was like, it was a lot longer, but the thing is that I love dance and I want to take a class like in person because I feel like I'll get a little less frustrated because me teaching myself the moves, it's so frustrating because I'll sit there and learn like the easiest of the easiest on dances on TikTok, and it'll take me like an hour to 2 hours to learn it. And I'm like, this was the easiest thing dance. So I want to go into an actual class and have a instructor that kind of teaches. And so that's definitely something I'm going to look into. That was another thing. I was looking into that here. And I was going to join a gym that had, I don't know who is it, Les Mills, I think. They have like it's a class called Shabam. And so I was going to join a gym, but something kept coming up every time I was supposed to go take that class to see if I wanted to do it. And I hear it's really hard to get out of the contract with this gym. So, I'm so glad that happened because I would be kicking myself in the butt right now if I had that gym membership and I was about to move. So, but yeah, I'm definitely
be careful about those gym
contracts. Yeah, for sure.
You got to be careful. Let's see. But yeah, so 75 hard. Yeah, 75 hard was a journey. I loved seeing that. Like, I love that aspect of your 75 hard. Like, I thought that was such a creative and fun way to get in one of the workouts every day. Was learning that dance. That was really awesome. What motivates you? What motivates you in life? What motivates you on your weight loss journey? What motivates you?
That's a really good question. I want to be cliche and be like, my kids motivate me, but it's essentially it's more than that. I mean, obviously they motivate me to be the best version of me and the best me that I can be, but ultimately, wanting a better life for myself, because for so long I settled. I was with an abusive man for 15 years of my life. That's a long time. And the amount of things that I dealt with and I still have these moments in time where I will just out of nowhere have anxiety and I'll question, why am I feeling this way? And, I'll look at the time and be like, oh, it's 5 o'clock, because 5 o'clock was always a really stressful time for me because I never knew if he was going to come home. I never knew what mood he was going to come home in if he did. So, for me, just I look back and I'm like, I can't believe, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I did that. And I put up with that for as long as I did. So, helping other women who have been through what I've been through, helping them realize their potential, because it's so hard for women, if you've been emotionally abused, And then that's why men will do that, because they want to push you down. They want to keep you in that mode. They want to keep you in that mind frame of you can't do better than me. You're not good enough for this. And you're never going to do this. And this is never going to happen for you. So you really have to fight. You really have to fight for yourself. And if you have kids in a situation like that, you've got to get them out of there. You will have people say, oh, it's better for the kids for you to stay together. But if they're watching that, you are setting a really not great example for your children, because they're going to grow up either acting that way, or they're going to grow up thinking that that's love. And then they're themselves going to get into those toxic relationships. And there's a thing that I learned as I was learning about abuse and how often this unfortunately happens. It's called generational curses. And so I told myself I was going to break the generational curse so my children did not have to deal with what I had to deal with. And so, that's what motivates me. That's what keeps me going, is not just my kids, but me wanting a better life for myself. I left my husband because I wanted a better life for myself. I wanted to put myself first. I wanted to love myself, and I knew I deserved better. So just knowing that I have a really good story that people can be inspired by also helps me to keep going, because not only have I conquered leaving an abusive man and freeing and escaping from that and freeing myself and my children, but I've also done this alone, financially alone, and I don't have a traditional job, which being a single mom is scary in itself, but having a non-traditional job like YouTube, where you don't know you don't know what your income is going to be from month to month, and it's so like up and down, and continuing to follow that dream and follow that passion of mine, and just continuing to inspire other women and showing women that you can do this. Anything that you put your mind to, no matter what you want, and it's not just women, but it's men too. No matter what it is that you want in life, you've got to fight and you've got to want it and you've got to go after it, but you work and you be consistent with it and you will get it. I had to stay consistent in leaving my husband because I felt like I had to keep leaving him, because I essentially left him, but he kept coming back and I kept letting him in my life in certain aspects. And while we weren't living together, we were still, doing things together. We were still hanging out, and that happened for years. And it's to the point where I even had him move in with me for, I think it was 6 months. And then when I realized nothing had changed, and, it was always going to be this vicious cycle, that's when I finally divorced him and, have been free since. But that whole grieving process was really hard. And I will tell you, while it's hard, it's 100% worth it. So if there is anyone that's watching this that is in an abusive marriage or relationship, I definitely urge you to seek help and get out, because it is 1,000% worth it for sure.
If you or anyone that you love is in an abusive relationship or experiencing anything like that, or you feel like they might be, there is a national hotline. It's 1-800-799-SAFE. So 1-800-799-SAFE, and that's 7233. They also have, you can text, you can chat. I don't know if you can see my phone. It's blocking it out. So it's got a few options, but reach out and don't wait.
Yeah.
Don't wait. I mean, you need to do what you need to do in your situation, but the sooner that you start to take steps to get out, the better.
Yeah. And I just because we're talking about it, I want to real quick talk about, because I haven't talked about this in a while. I just want to talk real quick about how I got out, because I got that question a lot when I did leave. So I knew that I needed therapy. I knew that I needed someone to finally hear me, because for so long I had told people, but I felt like no one was really hearing me. So I said, let me give it one last shot. So I went to this woman, and for the first time she heard me. And she started throwing the idea or the word narcissist around after she heard my story. And I was like, I've heard that and I don't believe it. I don't believe he's a narcissist. So I started connecting with other women who had husbands like me. And I was like, okay, I have got to get out. I have got to get out. So I started weighing all of my options. I knew I wanted to continue to be a stay-at-home mom, but I also knew that I have a background in accounting. So if, me getting an office job is what I needed to do, I was willing to do anything. So one day I was in this class with other women, and the leader was talking about lowering your expectations. And so I thought that I was going to leave this man, being able to get a 3-bedroom apartment, and, I was going to be like living the good life. And then I had to realize that, if I had to move into a 1-bedroom apartment with nothing, that was going to be better than staying with this man. So what I realized and what I did was I was making my own money. I was doing YouTube, and then I also worked from home. So, I would get more clients, and I would take more clients on, and I would just tell him that I was making this amount, but I would start saving. So I just started saving. I also knew, it was coming up in the time for our income tax. So I knew I always handled the taxes. It always got direct deposited into my account. So I ended up taking the money. And, I was really scared about that, because I was like, am I going to get in trouble for this? And then he started manipulating me, thinking that I was. And so, I don't know if I went to a sheriff's office, but I know I was talking to a therapist, and she was like, did you do anything different this year than you normally would have? Did you anything? And I said, no, like I did this year exactly, only I took the money and I put it towards getting an apartment. Or actually it was a townhome. And she was like, well, then you did nothing wrong. You are legally married, and kind of and again, every state is going to be different, but this is just my story. But essentially I needed to be able to know that I could still do what I was doing and financially take care of myself and my children. And so I paid the entire year's rent for this townhome. So that way, I also made sure that I was making larger payments on my car before I moved out. So I only had like 2 months left with a car payment, so I could get my bills as small as possible, because for me, financially was going to be the way that I kept away from him, and kept, I had my own space and whatnot. So that's how I personally, got free. And I know there's shelters, and I know that they have, lots of resources to help as far as, job applications, resumes, they have resources that they can help to, shoot you in the right direction of, go to this person to apply, for a job and whatnot. If there's anyone out there that's looking for a job, there are resources out there. But I also wanted to share, how I personally did it as well.
Thanks, Jill, for being willing to share your story. Like, I know that's not easy. It's not easy to talk about, and it's not easy to share.
I did want to say this. It did take me like a good 6 to 7 months. So it was me in therapy once a week with my therapist, and then once a week with a group in a group therapy session with other women who were dealing with narcissists as well. So it wasn't an overnight thing. But essentially, and one of the hardest things was I was like trying to change myself in the presence of him. And that was hard. Because it was like narcissism on steroids. It was awful. But I continued to just stay strong, and I knew my end goal, and I knew where I was headed. But it took me a good 6 to 7 months to be able to prepare myself to get to that point, to be financially independent, to be able to do what I was doing, and to be able to leave. So it's not an overnight thing. But if anyone's in a situation where, they're in like serious danger, that's what, shelters are for and whatnot.
Yeah. And it's not just, I feel like often the story is from our perspective, from a female perspective, but this does happen with men too. And I know there's like 2% of you that watch this channel, but if you were watching this channel as a male and you were in an abusive relationship or fear that you might be, then I encourage you to get help. And yeah. So
for sure.
A few things that I don't feel like you just recently, this is changing gears. We're shifting out of it. And I feel like it's something that's important. It's so important to share. And so I'm so grateful that you did. And I don't want this to take away from the seriousness of it, but it also, maybe it will help encourage people to, regardless of their current situation, if they find themselves in a darker situation or maybe not quite as dark. But it's something you said in your most recent video, and something you've touched on several times throughout our conversation. I feel like you are an entrepreneurial spirit. Like I am not. So I've spent my entire life working so hard for the companies that I work for, like so hard. And I'm definitely not saying that you haven't worked hard for other people, but I felt like that was the only valid way. Like that was the way. Now I would never judge anyone. I always admired entrepreneurs, but that was so out of my realm of possibility, like working for myself. My husband's very entrepreneurially minded. I am not. I would love if you could share a little bit on that side of you, because I feel like that's a big part and something that's so encouraging, especially the way you were talking in your last video. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll link her last video on her main channel in my description. But if you would share your entrepreneurial journey, that's what I'll call it.
Okay, so when I was a child, I knew that I was meant to do something different. And I was, when I started, getting into high school and thinking about, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? I could not stop thinking about fashion and makeup. Like that was just, it's always been a part of me. Even when, well, I was going to say, even when I was dressing all grunge, but that was the style back then. And that was very trendy. So I was actually being very trendy even back then, even though, my gosh, my family just made so much fun of me, which is so funny because one of my brothers actually listens to that music now that he's so made fun of me for listening to. But I just always knew that was different. And so when I turned 16, I got my very first job at a grocery store and I liked it. It was okay. But I remember, because I was like you, I worked really hard and, I wanted to be the best at whatever I did. So I was a cashier and I immediately, very quickly was promoted to front end. Was it front end? I don't know if it was front end supervisor, but basically it was like the position where you were basically just a glorified cashier, but you had keys now. So you had a little say, in telling people what to do or when to take break or whatever. So after that, I was then very quickly promoted into, working as a bookkeeper for the customer service desk. And I will never forget working my butt off. And, the front end is it is crowded. I'm the bookkeeper. I'm trying to tender out a till and, there's a line of people at the customer service desk. There's a line of people outside. Out in the front end. So I really need to go open up a register. Then I also need to go take care of these customers here. They're trying to get money orders and, trying to send Western Unions and stuff. And I look over into the office and the gosh darn store manager is sitting there with his feet on the desk on the phone doing nothing. And I'm just wait, this isn't right. So I kind of knew in that moment that I wanted to be him. I wanted to be the person that was sitting and everyone else, but I didn't want to really be him. Basically, I didn't want to work for someone else because I didn't want to work for those people, for the person that I'm making $5 an hour. He's making $75,000 a year. And I'm out here busting my butt. The customers are all getting mad. We're the ones having to deal with this. The ones of us making $5 an hour and he's in there making $75,000 with his feet on the desk. It just made me so angry. So that kind of gave me an insight onto, I knew I wanted to do something different. I just didn't know how, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So I took the traditional route and went to college. And I actually went to a tech school and it was a secretarial science is what the major was called. It was essentially getting your associate's degree to become a secretary, administrative assistant. And I went and I worked for this grocery store. I went and I worked at the regional office, which was me being a secretary part-time. Now it's, it used to be secretary. Now we've changed the name to administrative assistant. So I hated it. Oh my gosh, I hated it. I hated it so bad. And it was, again, the same thing. I was being taught and told to be afraid of these CEOs and these people who were above me. And I just could not get down with corporate life. People teaching you to be afraid of other people because of the title that they hold. To me, none of that it doesn't make sense. And then, I literally would have nothing to do and I would be twiddling my thumbs. I couldn't go on my computer to play solitaire. Like I literally had nothing to do, but I had to stay there because I had to answer the phone. And it was just things like that. Where just like, I cannot get behind this life. So, I went after I was laid off at that position, and I was like, thank God, because I don't know how much longer I could have done that. But I went into accounting, and accounting was a little bit better because, while you're still taught to be afraid of the boss and, oh my gosh, the boss is coming, you better act your best self. You better be on your best behavior. A boss is coming. It was a little bit better than being an administrative assistant. But again, I still knew I wanted to do something different. But I was conditioned because I was like, I'm not going to be able to make it in makeup. I'm not going to be able to make it in being a hairstylist or in fashion. So one day I was like, you know what, I'm going to move to Atlanta because I've always been fascinated by city life. And I knew if I didn't do it, I was never going to do it. So I was young. I really didn't have any responsibilities. I just on a whim was like, I'm going to move to Atlanta. So I put in my 2 weeks notice. I moved to Atlanta, and they actually had a fashion school there. And I went and I, researched about it. And unfortunately at that time they didn't have night classes. So it wasn't, now where, schools are super flexible. It wasn't online. You had to go in class, during the hours of when I was essentially working. And so it just didn't work out. So I don't know. I had babies. I always knew I, wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but also needed to bring in money. So I started working from home. I did a telemarketing type job. And then I discovered YouTube in 2011. And then I discovered that you can actually make a living doing YouTube. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I just kept grinding and putting out content. And, the more popular YouTube got, the more I started growing, and the more I started seeing the potential, and the more I realized this is how I'm going to make my money. And, people ask me all the time, like, how do you do it not knowing what you're going to make month to month? Or, what are you going to do if YouTube shuts down tomorrow? Well, I mean, I still have a degree behind me. I still have all of that accounting experience. So the office will always be there. But this opportunity right here might not always be here for me. So if I don't pursue it and I don't go after it, then I don't want to live life with regret. So while, there were so many people advising me to not do this and, don't do this, it's not secure. I have people tell me all the time, go get a real job, and, trying to downplay like this isn't a real job. But, I love what I do. I love the flexibility to be able to stay at home, because essentially that was a big reason, not just the whole, I hate being micromanaged. Leave me alone. Let me do my own thing. Like, in 2019, towards the end, I took a contract position for this job, and I did it for, I think it was 3 months. But again, going back into that corporate world, I was again being trained to be afraid of this woman who, she was so kind and so nice. And I'm like, why are you teaching me to be afraid of her? Like, I just don't understand that whole corporate philosophy. But they also micromanage to the point where you couldn't even go to the bathroom without having to ask these women when we were in training. And not only when we were just in training, but when we got switched over to what we were training for and we got filled in the positions, I literally had to ask to go to the bathroom every single time. And, they were always up over, like, I can't work like that. So I just, that along with, knowing that I wanted to be home with my kids just kept me going. And it's what has kept me striving for this, and what's kept me consistent and on this path, no matter what anyone has said, because I've heard a lot. I've heard it all pretty much, and a lot of people's opinions on why I shouldn't be doing this, why it's not secure, why it's not stable, and why I shouldn't be doing it. But I just kept listening to my heart and, what I wanted for me and my family. And I just kept going. And now I am at a really good place. And I know how much potential there is out there to keep growing with my income, and that's so exciting. It's so exciting. And also to know that I'm reaching, people with my story that there are women out there like me and men that are stuck in abusive relationships and they think that there's no way out. And to hear other people's stories, to see how they got out of that, it's just encouraging and inspiring. And I've always said that I also wanted to help people and inspire people. I remember being in my 20s, I wasn't plus size then, but I remember, thinking that it wasn't fair how fashion wasn't readily available to plus size women. And I was like, I'm going to do something different. And, that's not something that's out of reach for me now. Like I can totally, open up a boutique or get with fashion designers and start designing, clothes that are, oh, sorry, someone called me. Did that totally mess us up?
No, you're fine. You just disappeared for a second, but
okay.
You're back.
But yeah, I can be a fashion designer if I want. There's just so many opportunities that can come out of this and continue to grow and follow my dreams and my passions and stuff like that. But also continuing to inspire people to know that, anything is possible. I love what I do for sure.
I love that. And I'm going to link her video down below because it was pretty motivating. I love that I can't remember. I'm just mind dumping right now. Like all of my thoughts are not there, but it's very inspirational the way that you spoke in that video about kind of owning your own life, like working for yourself. And it's not necessarily better and it's not for everyone.
For sure.
For yourself, it's not, but it's not less than for sure. For sure. It is not Absolutely. Less than anything else. But there's a lot of power in being able to control your day. And the more you put into your business, whatever that is, or your career choices, the more output you get. And I feel like for me, while I didn't have the same experiences working for other people, I never felt scared and never felt encouraged to feel scared of my bosses. And it might just be the companies. Like before I was laid off, I really had my dream job and I had an amazing team that I worked with and my bosses. Like I loved everybody. But that didn't even matter. Being extremely effective and talented and an asset, it couldn't matter in the terms of everything. When something so big happens that you have to shut down all of your facilities, like you're at the mercy of, and you're always kind of at the mercy of the market. Yeah. But when the market turns like that, you see how expendable you are. And people have to get creative that are running these businesses just to make it keep running. And one of that ways resulted in like kind of depleting a big part of the corporate side of things, which included me. And I realized how expendable and how I had thought that it was so stable for so long, like that working for someone was the stable way to go. And that's like a false security in my opinion. For me, that was false security. The only security I feel like I really truly have is in myself as far as making a living and channeling my work ethic. And I feel like the work ethic you have like into creating things to help others I think it's a great use of my time and my skill set. So
absolutely. I say, I've said this, I definitely said this in that video. If 2020 taught us anything, is that no job is stable. And that's where a lot of people just couldn't understand. I can't understand how you can have 2 kids, be a single mom and continue to do this because it's been a very hard, long road. And yes, at points and times my kids did have to sacrifice and I had to sacrifice, but it was a sacrifice I was willing to make because I, at the end of the day, wanted to be there. And not to say that, you can't be a mother and work. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And another thing is daycare is not cheap, it's like, okay, I'm going to go get this job. I'm going to make $12 an hour. I'm going to make 40 hours a week. I'm going to have to take $500 of that $1,200 a week to put towards someone else watching my children for me and taking care of them. And then not only that, but that's going to make my day longer because now I have to take them to daycare, and then they're going to take them to school or whatever the case may be. And then I'm going to have to go pick them back. It's just it was so much. And it just never made sense for me financially to take that money, because I was always going to be working to put them in daycare. And I was never going to make more, but in YouTube and with the other job that I had, because I didn't stop doing the other job until my channel really started taking off. And I was really only at 20,000 subscribers. So, this whole thing that you think that you have to have a ton of subscribers in order to make this a full-time business and a full-time living wage. And it's false. You can have 20,000 subscribers and make this a full-time job. It's just all about your grind and what you're doing and what, sponsorships you have coming and, affiliate marketing and stuff like that. So you can totally make this a business with smaller numbers. But, I just kept grinding and I kept sacrificing. And, we lived in a small 2-bedroom house. I shared my bedroom with my daughter when we first moved in. And then my kids started sharing a room, and it was just such a small place. And then, we were able to move into this place, but it's just been such an amazing blessing to, not have to, time is everything. And we only have our children for a short amount of time. And, I wanted to make sure that I could be with them as much as possible, because once they're, I say this, when we were talking earlier, like my son is 15, he's about to be a sophomore. He's about to start driving and, working, and I'm not going to see him as much. He's not going to be around as much. And so I need to start forming and developing my own life aside and apart from my kids now, because they don't need me as much. And that was something that's also been hard for me to kind of come to terms with, because it's hard, when someone needs you for everything and all of a sudden they don't. It's like, wait, why don't you need me like you used to? So it's definitely a transition. I'm sure a lot of moms can relate to, but it's not fun. But now it's time for me to, continue to find me again. And that's something that I loved about 75 Hard too, is the whole internal work that, they have you do with the, and you can take it as far as you want. So personally for me, I was listening to an audiobook and I was reading the 10 pages a day. So I was really doing a lot of internal work, and it forced me, or it didn't force me, but it got me doing internal work. And that in turn opened up a new world, like a world of possibilities that doesn't just include, my current reality, basically now is a perfect time for me to reinvent my life and to truly have that fresh start. And to, anyone that's been through a divorce knows that that's crucial, like a crucial part of like moving on from, you're a family and now you're not. And it's a hard time to go through, but it's also, it can be a beautiful thing, because like right now, I literally, especially with this job, and that's the beauty of this job, is that I can literally do this job from anywhere in the world. And so if I want to move to Charlotte or, California or New York or wherever I want to move, I can, because my job comes with me. I don't have anyone to really answer to like I would if I had a 9-to-5, and I don't have to go searching for a job or any of that. And I just love it. I just love it. And I love that I'm able to create my reality, or like make my dreams a reality. It's no longer just something that I'm thinking about. It's something that I'm actually going to work on and make it come to fruition, basically.
I love that. Well, there's two things in wrapping up. First, will you tell everybody where they can find you on the internet?
Well, I am on Taking Weight Off on YouTube. I have 2 channels on YouTube. So Taking Weight Off. And then my other channel is Miss Green Eyes. It's more beauty and fashion focused over there. I was doing a lot of cleaning and just a lot of stuff over there, but I kind of am trying to niche it down to just beauty and fashion. And taking weight off will be that whole, it's not just focused on weight loss. It's focusing on changing my life, changing me, learning to be a better me. Also I'm going to start doing cooking videos over on that channel. So and then I also have an Instagram, which I'm not super, super active on there, but I do post here and there, and I'm trying to get more active. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do over there, but it is Miss Nice 1380. And I also have a TikTok, which that one is.
Can you say that one more time? I think that you might have broken up a little bit. So
Instagram sorry. Handle. The Instagram, Miss Green Eyes 1380. And then TikTok is Miss Green Eyes 1516.
Awesome. Yeah. So definitely check Jill out in all of the places. And what I would like for you to leave on is what advice do you have for others who are, and you can answer for all of these or just one of these, people who are in a hard place and they need to get out, people who are about to start their weight loss journey, or people who have started and slipped up and need to start again. What advice do you have?
For me personally, all three of those is don't undermine the power of counseling and don't undermine the power of a really good therapist. Like if you find the right therapist, you are going to a whole new world is going to be opened up. And for me, going through as much trauma as I went through, I knew that I needed someone. I knew that I needed someone because I was so stuck in my mind frame, which was so negative that I literally could not think of ways other than I need to have money. And how am I going to get money? I don't know. So I really, was so limited in my own mind frame. So I needed other resources and I needed people. So whether that's, if you are, wanting to start a weight loss journey, maybe you go and you start Weight Watchers because you want the community, or maybe you go and look for, Overeaters Anonymous, or maybe you just go to a therapist. I really think that you have to get to the root, because for me, I had to get to the root of why I was continuing to allow my husband to treat me the way that I was allowing him to treat me. Because yes, he abused me, but then I also had to take responsibility for the fact that I allowed him to keep abusing me. And I kept allowing him to treat me that way. So I knew that I needed to heal from my trauma, and I needed to heal from those ways and reasons as to why I keep treating myself horribly and why I also allow other people to treat me horribly. So for me, that's where it's really, and it's not even like you have to do you have to go get a therapist. I just say therapy because they have resources, and they also have the education behind why your brain might be working in the way that it's working. They also have resources to help you if you do better in a group setting, to get you around other people who are going through similar things. And then also reading self-help books has really been something that has also opened my eyes to a whole new world and has really helped me out personally. So yeah, that's definitely, it's doing the internal work, because there's a reason why you're letting yourself and other people treat you less than what you should be treating, allowing people to treat yourself and treat you basically.
Well, that's great advice. And I love that you shared your story. I find your story so motivating, and I'm really grateful that you came on my little maybe podcast.
I'm so grateful that you had me. I'm so excited that we got to talk, and, just like you've been watching me, I've been watching you too. I know I don't comment much. I know I feel like I should, because that's one thing that people always tell you to do if you want to grow, like start commenting on other people's channels. I'm so bad at that. So I'm constantly watching and keeping up, and I'm always, being your cheerleader. I'm like, yes, get it, girl. And I'm so proud of you because you are doing amazing. And I'll get so mad when we'll talk about comments that you get. And I'm like, this girl has just lost 50 pounds. She's accomplished so much. What does anyone have to say? Like, I'll get so mad, but yeah, I'm totally watching and supporting too. So I love that you reached out and that we're like building a connection and whatnot.
Me too. Well, definitely check out Jill's channel, find her in all of the places, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Hop over to wakeupbright.com for more details about today's episode, Or if you would like to reach out and share details, if you know someone who would be a great guest for our podcast, we would love to hear it. We are so unbelievably excited to be sharing our podcast with you. As we learn and grow, your HIIT podcast will only get better. I look forward to seeing you next time. Love you all so much.